Most of us are familiar that the Gospel of John is different than the other Gospels. There doesn't seem to be many, if any, stories that are shared from the Gospel of John with Matthew, Mark, or Luke. And so it makes us question and want to say, what is it that John is wanting us to understand? There are stories and memories that the gospel writer John has that he wants his community to know. And the wedding at Cana is one such story. And we might ask ourselves, why is this the first story that John tells about Jesus? So I invite us to think about the Gospel of John as a whole and how John bookends kind of what is most important, like where he's going with all of these stories. We hear in the first chapter of John how the Word came into the world, that the Word was in the beginning and always was with God and came into the world, and the world did not recognize him. Jesus, who was incarnate and began his ministry, wasn't recognizable by those who were around him. And at the end of the Gospel of John, then we hear these words, "All of this has been written down for you so that you may believe that Jesus is God's Son and that by believing you have life." So John is taking us on a journey in his gospel, the idea that we really don't know who Jesus is. Jesus is sometimes unrecognizable in this world. And we go on this journey so that we may believe that Jesus is truly who he is, the Son of God, and that we would have life. And so John starts this journey with the story of the wedding of Cana. We are told this is the first sign, the first miracle that Jesus does, according to the Gospel of John. The first sign of Jesus is making wine. How cool is that? Right? What a miracle. I think we would all fairly enjoy that. It's not something I've ever seen before, nothing I've experienced before. So what a great, great miracle. But is it really that? Is that the sign that Jesus wanted to show his glory with? So maybe it's not just the fact that he turned water into wine. Maybe it's really about the abundance of wine that was created. Each of those 6 jars, stone jars, hold 20 to 30 gallons. In our 21st century understanding, that would mean 600 to 900 bottles of wine. That is a lot. All of us together here, if we had that before us, would not be able to drink that much wine in a short period of time. And so we see how this miracle is this abundance, overabundance, more than enough, more than the people who were at that wedding celebration would have even been able to drink. And so is this the miracle? Is this the glorious sign that John would want us to see? I think it's possible and likely, but I'd like for us to focus on the miracle of the jars themselves. These jars are not just decorative jars. They have a purpose, and they have one purpose only: to provide water for the ritual purification law. It's the rule. When a community gets together, when people gather, they need to be cleansed. And so these jars hold the water in which they wash their hands. It's all they're used for. It's not decorative. It isn't to put other things in. It is only to hold the water for purification. We know that Jesus often breaks rules from the other gospel stories. And so Jesus sees these jars that have a purpose and yet are not meeting the needs of the very problem or crisis at hand. He takes those jars that are meant for a rule of washing and cleansing and creates an abundance of joy, an abundance of beauty and celebration. See, this is what Jesus' miracles do. It changes the narrative. It flips the narrative. It shatters the way that we think things always should be. It changes our expectations of how we are to live in the world and be people of faith. Jesus' miracles shatter our framework of thinking. The miracles should shatter our expectations about what we think is important and what rules we should follow. For those that day who witnessed the miracle, it shattered their whole idea of what faith and following the rules was about. And for those that witnessed it, it was scandalous. Those servants must have thought Jesus was off his rocker. How? Why would he use these ritualistic jars to do something different? And so I believe that as we enter into this story and we think about our relationship and our faith and our work with the unhoused, we might ask ourselves, what is this miracle wanting to shatter in us? What are those expectations or rules that we just have always lived by that we might want to reframe or rethink? For example, don't we all think or expect that you have to work for what you get? You have to earn what you need. Well, in the story of this wedding at Cana, neither the bridegroom or the head waiter did anything. They did nothing. They did nothing. They didn't even ask for more wine to be created. They did not have to earn what they got. We have conventional expectations that there's not enough for everyone to have enough. Well, this miracle definitely shatters that thought, for Jesus created an abundance of joy and hope. We have expectations or rules that say that some people deserve more than others. Based on our merit-based system, like if you have wealth or you are prosperous or if you work hard enough, then you deserve more than the people who don't work as hard or don't have as much. You know, we think about this wedding in Cana. Did the bridegroom and the family just not plan well? Did they just invite too many people? Did they open their doors to the community and didn't think about that they might run out of wine? Did the head waiter pour too much in the early parts of the celebration and therefore the wine ran out? I mean, if you don't plan well, do you really get to have more? Jesus didn't ask. Jesus didn't care that maybe the planning wasn't there. We have conventional expectations that if someone gets more than they had before, then it'll be less that we can add to what we already have, or it'll be less than we can give to our children or to our grandchildren. If we are generous and continue to be generous with those who are unhoused, and if we believe that they don't deserve what they get or they have to work harder for what we give them, do we really believe then there won't be enough for what we think we want to have? All these conventional expectations need to be flipped. I believe that's the story for us today, the message of this miracle at Cana. As Eric said, we planned this sermon series so many months ago. And then we opened up our doors for the emergency shelter in January. And it gave us an opportunity to get to know our unhoused friends, to have conversations, to help build trust between them and us. And as we have moved away from that time, we have folks who continue to come to our church to feel safe, to understand peace, to be in relationship with us. I want to introduce you to a couple of our friends, John and Rio. So please watch this video.
And I'm here to tell a little story about my experience as a homeless man. I became homeless around October of last year.
So I'm 41. This is the first time I've been homeless in my life, living here in Colorado Springs. I've been here about 5.5, 6 years, and this place has pretty much chewed me up.
My experience with being homeless is, well, quite the story, so to speak. When I first got here, things were really, really hard. Didn't know anybody. I didn't know where to sleep, didn't know where to turn to. People were really nasty towards me. And I guess most of the homeless folks were experiencing the same thing. Became friends with a few homeless guys, and they pointed me in the right direction as far as where to sleep and where not to sleep, because the police were chasing us all over the place.
Well, my experience has been that I turned to the church after 4.5, 5 years trying to get myself together and use all the information and ideas that I have to help myself and to survive here, being homeless. And those have mostly failed. Not failed in a bad way, but just came to an end. And so through my experience meeting other homeless people, and they're telling me their experience and how they survive.
You walk around with a backpack on, you're homeless. I mean, you get bad looks. I take that backpack off and I can go in any store and nobody know the difference. Nobody would know the difference. I can walk in any place in there and get treated completely different.
We don't have these experiences. Most of us, if not all of us in this space, have lived life in a much different way. Last week we were here remembering and celebrating the greatest miracle of all, which was the resurrection of Jesus. But that was even scandalous at the time. That Jesus would rise from the dead was a miracle that flipped the narrative of all things. It changed the expectation that death was final and had the final word, and there was nothing after death. It flipped the narrative and the framework of believing that some deserve grace and others do not, because we know that in Jesus Christ all are forgiven. So how do these miracles and these signs of Jesus inform us of how we respond to the needs of others, especially those of our unhoused friends? I wish I had an answer. I wish that I had this divine plan of how we are to move forward and what's our next step and what is going to change this world and what is going to help end the crisis of homelessness. But I think that our story today might point us in a couple of directions. Number one, let's be like those servants who filled up those jars. They didn't have a hose that you could put on a spigot on the side of the house and just fill up a jar. They had to carry buckets to the community well and go back and forth until those jars were brimming full. And so maybe we just need to keep working and keep moving and keep trying our best until the miracle appears. I also think, stealing from Eric's sermon last week, that we might be like Mary. Now, this is a different Mary that we're talking about today. Last week, it was Mary Magdalene, but Jesus' mother, Mary, is the one who gets things rolling in this miracle at the wedding of Cana. It is Mary that saw what was needed, who talked with Jesus, who spurred him on to action, and then trusted and waited for that miracle to happen. Commentator Debbie Thomas said this: maybe we can be like Mary. Maybe we can notice and name and persist and trust. No matter how profound the scarcity, no matter how impossible the situation, we can elbow our way in, pull Jesus aside, ask earnestly for help, and ready ourselves for action. We can keep human needs squarely before our eyes, even and especially when denial, apathy, or distraction are easier options. And finally, we can invite others to obey the miraculous winemaker that we have come to know and trust. While we do not have all the answers, we believe in the one who does. And so let us be open. Let us keep working. Let us understand the miracle that is already occurring and that we wait to see. May it be so. Amen.